Thank you for downloading episode 341. This week we have the Al Smith dinner. Trolling more. Show me your war face. Let me finish. Handing out a rule on hand counting. And the state of Georgia's prisons. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is the OG, or one of the OGs. We had one of the OGs last week, Jessica Szilagyi. Hi, Dave. Howdy. It's good to have you back.
Well, yes, I can understand that.
Of course.
You've been dealing with Matt and Ken, so I mean, come on.
Well, yeah, I do enjoy having the fourth most important person in your household on.
Well, I'm the only one that can articulate more than one syllable at a time, so.
I don't know. I've heard your dogs, they speak loads with their eyes.
True.
Wait till a strange man grabs the baby and walks towards the door.
Yeah.
You hear 4 ears, 4 eyes. Where the hell are you going? Yeah. How is the dumpling?
She's good. She's talking some. She can say like 15 words. Not walking yet, but I'm not upset about that because she keeps me chasing her as it is. But she's great. She's a really awesome baby. So.
Well, she's got an awesome mama.
Thank you.
And she's going to be hard-headed like her mama.
She will.
I remember we were down there one day. It's like, no, she can come over. She was, she had some form of locomotion at the time, and she was crawling and scooting and all that stuff. Like, no, she's just being lazy. Don't hand it to her. Of course I do.
Yeah. I'm like, she got to work for it a little bit. I don't want her to be a Democrat.
Libertarian.
Yeah. For sure.
So I had a lady's house I've been to a couple times. She's funny. She's very sweet. But I was talking to her. She's like, "You are so funny. You're so funny. Your wife must be laughing all the time." I said, "No, I've been married to her for 17 years. I've been talking to you for 17 minutes. I assure you, she's over my crap."
She's not laughing anymore.
No, she laughs at me.
Poor Connie.
Poor Connie. No, she laughs at me plenty, but no, she actually liked that. Like, no, you've listened to me for 17 minutes. She's over me. Poor woman has to have this fat old man snoring next to her every night. Lucky her. So did you watch the Al Smith dinner?
I watched clips. I did not watch the whole thing.
You know, it's a goofy dinner. It's a Catholic roast, essentially. So it's not as mean as the Friars Club or anything like that. Certainly not as dirty as the Friars Club was. Or the Comedy Central roasts of different people. Actually, Donald Trump was roasted on the Comedy Central roast for charity and all that stuff. But Jim Gaffigan, comedian, killed it. Absolutely murdered that room. One of his quotes was, "President Biden couldn't be here tonight. The DNC made sure of that." Then he said, Kamala Harris claims Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. You mean after committing a coup, being installed, removing the democratically elected nominee for the Democratic Party, and being installed, you're calling Donald Trump anti-democratic? Like, whoo. Now, he was being funny, and I don't know where Gaffigan is on the political spectrum, but he was being a true comedian, which was he dished it out to both of them. And that's the whole idea. It's the whole tradition behind it every 4 years is a chance for the two sides, and you know, I understand that there are, you know, 3 other people in the race, but the two major sides come together and be cordial for one night and take jabs at each other. It's not a campaign event.
Well, we were talking about it before we started recording about how, you know, there was a headline recently about SNL about how they've turned on Kamala, and that headline never would have appeared even 10 years ago. Like, because they roasted everyone equally, and it was entertaining and it was funny, and nobody was upset about it. They just, I mean, obviously, like, I'm sure there were people who were upset about it, but nobody was upset about the fact that they roasted both. And then it
No,
became the norm that we just didn't roast both on SNL, and
no,
so now
40,
it's a shock that they do.
41 invited Dana Carvey to the White House after doing the impersonation on Saturday Night Live. Ford laughed at Chevy Chase playing him, going down the stairs and stuff like that, taking pratfalls. I think it was Dan Aykroyd played Jimmy Carter, and made fun of Jimmy Carter. People saying how smart he is for being a nuclear scientist, literally on a submarine. And he did some call-in show where he's trying to tell some guy how to come down off of acid. They made fun of Reagan, and by somebody who loved Reagan, made fun of him. Bill Clinton, I can't remember who the comedian was. When it was his first term, he was out, quote unquote, jogging. He jogged to a McDonald's, and he was talking about redistributing wealth. And he would grab somebody's Big Mac, take a bite out of it, and put it back down, and go grab somebody else's fries. And it was making fun of Clinton being a fast food junkie, and then claiming to go jogging. But it was never mean spirited. Even Will Ferrell playing George W. Bush with strategery. It was. W was not offended by it. He laughed at himself. That was the whole thing. And somewhere along the line where W was exiting and Obama was coming in, that it became uncool to make fun of the sitting president. I don't know if they were scared off because of Obama's race, but it became uncool. They portrayed Romney as a milk toast robot, and well, I mean, they weren't far off. Made fun of John McCain, but the whole idea is to lampoon everybody. And look, those skits they're talking about, there was a Family Feud skit with I think Maya Rudolph was playing Kamala Harris. I'm not sure who was playing Trump, but it was funny. It didn't portray her being, Maya Angelou, which also Maya Rudolph played on Saturday Night Live. But it wasn't making her out to be a buffoon. It was making fun of both of them, and people were just shocked that Saturday Night Live could actually get back to its roots of making fun of everybody.
Right.
But that's kind of what this thing was, and Harris did not show up. She did do some really creepy, weird, speaking of Saturday Night Live, weird thing of, if you remember Molly Shannon in Superstar, probably a little before your time on Saturday Night Live. You probably had to be in bed when this stuff would come on.
I remember.
But so you have a 60-year-old Molly Shannon in a Catholic schoolgirl outfit trying to do the same character behind Mala, or Cammy, when she's given this speech, and it was both insulting to Catholics and anybody who enjoys comedy, because it wasn't funny. And look, I think Alec Baldwin is hilarious. I think he's a scumbag, but he's brilliant actor. I think he's hilarious. I can't give that to Cammy because she's just not funny. She has the personality of again, a potato. She has no personality. Her voice is annoying. It's very nasally.
Yeah.
But that's
a lot of people.
Yeah, but that's and the cackling laugh and the uncomfortable laugh and all that stuff. It was a complete whiff. She should have shown up. She has Air Force 2. It's not like she could say my flight got delayed. There are literally people waiting for her to walk on to pull the wheels up, pull the stairs up and go. It's not like, if you or I were traveling, sitting in the airport bar watching delay. No, if she wants to be in New York City, that's where she is. Trump was pretty funny, and he did give love to Chuck Schumer and Eric Adams. Eric Adams a little backhanded, but Chuck Schumer and Donald Trump have known each other for a long, long, long time. So he patted Chuck on the back, or as we call him, Chuck U. Schumer. But he said, he was Chuck was the first political donation he ever made, and blah blah blah. And he talked about Eric Adams, like he goes, I told you I wasn't going to be the only one that they were going to go after. They never went after you until you talked about the migrant crisis.
It's just, I mean, we've talked about comedy and the state of it and all. I mean, it's just all, it's expired. Like, it either is trying to appease everybody, or people are mad that it applies to everybody. Like, it's that those are the polar opposites on the spectrum of comedy these days.
Yeah, and I gave you a couple good lines. And again, Trump most likely did not write these. They have writers that do these roasts. Jeff Ross being one of them. That is what he does for a living, is write roast and stuff. He's a comedian. I used to think Democrats were crazy for saying men have periods, but then I met Tim Walz. That's funny. That's funny. Tim Walz is also famous for wanting to put female products in boys' bathrooms in schools, in public schools. Mm-hmm. Look, if you put tampons in the bathroom when I was in school, where we would bring pockets full of change and plug the toilets up and stuff like that. I mean, we were little hoodlums. They had another quote. There's a group called White Dudes for Harris, but I'm not worried about them at all because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Mm-mm. That's funny. That's funny.
It is. Terrible, but funny.
It is, but Matt and I last week talked about the ad that was Creatives for Harris, and it shows these guys going, I'm man enough to vote for a woman and stuff like that. And it's like, I'm not afraid. And dude is obviously flaming. And I talked about this last week. He's like, I'm not afraid of bears. What? It was horrible, and it was tone deaf. But that's kind of things that this joke is talking about. Like that's no man. Like he may have the parts, but that's no man. Mm-hmm. I should say those are not the men that Harris needs to attract. She already has the soy boy limp wristed vote. She already has that pretty well locked up. What she's looking for are people like me who have guns in the safe, spend time outdoors, hike, fish, on occasion hunt, and trust me, we're not falling for Walz in a plaid jacket. Oh, he's one of us. So, trolling for troll's sake. Former Bachelorette, so I'm sure you know this guy, contestant Josh Sider, claimed in an interview he's been pretending to be a transgender woman as part of a social experiment to expose how gullible and delusional the left is. All right, so
I'm not sure I understand this. I mean, I understand what the words are, but I'm not sure I understand.
All right, so if you look at this dude, first of all, he's a drama queen. He's on he's done several things on reality TV, which doesn't exist. If reality TV was really reality, it wouldn't have writers. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he's a big dude, tattooed up, very masculine looking. So he throws on, and the first time that he comes out as transgender, he throws on this Marilyn Monroe style dress. Still with hair on his chest, still 5 o'clock shadow with red lipstick, tattoos all over him, right? And then his long troll on this was having people tell him how brave he is for coming out and how beautiful he is. The left didn't even understand they were being trolled. Like, I looked at the guy, I'm like, yeah, there ain't no way.
Well, if you look at the second picture of him where he's sitting at, or I don't know if it's the second, but it's maybe the third, in the article that we referenced, he's sitting in like a crop top, off the shoulder top, and white pants, holding makeup, and I don't know. It doesn't even look like he's trying.
That's the point.
Right. I mean,
That's the point. I mean, you remember the GameStop video, don't you, from a few years ago?
mm-hmm.
Where this dude is dressed as a chick, has a choker on, but it's obviously a dude. He's got 5 o'clock shadow. And he's trying to get some game or what. I don't know what it is.
It's ma'am.
It's ma'am. Like, all right, bro. I mean, the dude's 6'4".
Yeah.
He could palm a basketball. You tell me it's ma'am. All right, well, just screw my eyes. My eyes obviously have been lying to me my entire life. Because you look a lot like a dude. And look, I know it wouldn't be very nice to say, but also, transgenders need to understand, if you get misgendered, just roll with it.
But did you read the whole article where at the very end it said that he came out as pansexual in January 21 and then bisexual in 23?
Oh, no, he's an attention whore.
And then he said that these are like difficulties that he was raised in a strict conservative Christian household. I mean, I don't know.
He hit all their notes. And beware of any story or any person that hits all your talking points.
They gave him the platform he wanted, though.
Yep. They sure did.
But they always do.
Yeah, look, this is the second greatest long troll when it comes to transgender. The first is the Canadian teacher that put on the gigantic prosthetic breasts. Like, my back hurts looking at what this guy was carrying around every day. Mm-hmm. And he was a shop teacher. And he says, this is my name now. And finally the school, because kids were taking pictures of him, and finally the school said any students taking pictures of him would be disciplined. And they finally caught him, like, walking to the store, in regular clothes and stuff, and just it was a beautiful long troll, because it put the Canadian school officials in a tough spot where you have to believe everybody, even though your eyes are telling you you're being trolled, but they can't. They back themselves in a corner about supporting all transgender regardless. So they painted themselves in a corner. So the more of the stuff that comes out, the more the absurdity is illustrated. And here's your favorite trolling story.
I do love this one.
This one's from Massachusetts. It's trying to remove a Trump 2024. It says sign in the story. It's not a sign. This is a projector onto a water tower with Trump 2024. The projector is on this guy's property. He is not damaging city or county property at all. He's simply using it. He's simply shooting light against it.
I think it's freaking hilarious. And in the news, like it obviously ran on like a local news station where they did like in the 6 o'clock report, because they did it in their inflection voices with all the drama and talking about how city officials are they're scrambling to try to figure out how to stop him, because it's not illegal to shoot light into the sky like that. I mean, lasers, yes. Light, I don't think that's ever happened. It's freaking hilarious. I don't care who you support for president. You're trolling the local government, which is like the ultimate chef's kiss.
Yeah, and the local government, the township or whatever it is threatening to fine him $100 a day. The town is spending more than $100 a day on manpower, fuel for generators, to put spotlights up on the water tower to try to wash it out. And all it did is take it from this blue light of Trump Vance to white. It's still plenty visible. So they're going to spend $300 a day and then try to fine this guy $100 a day. There's no way it's going to stick. Even if it was, all you have to do is set up a GoFundMe, and what do we have left of the election? It's going to be what, 17 days or something like that, or 15 days from the day that the show drops, something like that.
Well, and
So
like, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and so $1,500, he could raise that in about 2 minutes. And just go out there and say, hey, go fund me, and go and pay the municipality off in pennies.
Which I support as well, but I think it's just entertaining. I mean, like in a perfect world, the local government would use it as a teachable moment, and if it bothered some people, they would say, well, it's certainly not an endorsement. Like, put out a statement. It's not an endorsement, but there's nothing we can do because they're doing it from their own property, and we want to be good stewards of your tax dollars, and so we are not going to spend more than we will ever collect.
Yeah, we're not going to spend $30,000 putting lights up and paying city overtime. And you can imagine how much these city workers make in Massachusetts. So probably $100,000 for the maintenance workers that have to stand out there and overtime. So it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars to do that. And this is all coming off people's property taxes. All because they don't like the light that's being projected on the water tower.
Yeah. But the thing is, I mean, and this is their problem and most local government's problem, is that even when they have a public information officer, they don't know how to just manage a story. Like, they always want to say too much. They always want to give long explanations. They always want to do something, when sometimes, like, the best response is just to explain what you can legally do and do no more.
There is no law against it.
Right.
Look, this is the same idea as having the Ku Klux Klan do a parade. They filed for the permits. They have a legal right to espouse their opinions, though they may be vile. They have a right to it. Even if they protest on the courthouse steps, doesn't mean that county and that court condones what they're doing. It means they have a right to demonstrate on the courthouse steps. That's all it means. So I don't understand the disconnect here, where they're so worried about this guy's free speech. And look, I'm not saying that this dude's right or wrong. He is. I mean, for as far as whether or not who he's voting for, whatever. Because I don't think Massachusetts is in play one way or the other. It's hilarious that he is just putting a giant middle finger up to his local government.
Well, and what's particularly entertaining to me is that the local government thinks, and that some of the people in that city obviously think, that it is the government's role to make sure that people don't display, like, that people aren't subjected to things they don't believe in.
Well, yeah, and look, I've got a friend who owns shops around the country, and he does very well. And he opened up a place in Hiram, and Hiram decided they didn't like him, so they're going to put him out of business. And he told the city of Hiram, "I have more money than you do." And then he proved it. Mm-hmm. The city tried to sue him, and he sued the city, and he won. And the shop is right where he won, because he decided that he would lose money before he let this local government tell him what he could and could not sell if it's a legal product. And I see this on the zoning boards and things like that out in Paulding County. Is, oh, okay, we're going to allow 3 liquor stores in the county. You know, obviously, unincorporated county, the cities do have liquor stores. We're going to allow 3 or whatever, but this is where it can be. It can't be on this road. Can't be on this road. I'm like, all you're doing is you're discouraging where one of these has been built. It's near Seven Hills, which is a nice area of Paulding County, but it's Seven Hills Boulevard and Cedar Crest Road go right to Cobb County. And that's where everybody's been going for their liquors, and making this guy go 2 miles off the road to build his, because that's where the county says he can have it. You're not going to see it unless you're looking for it. Otherwise, if you've gone to buy your party supplies 5 miles away instead of 2 miles away, you're going to keep going there. And the fact is, both of them are near Publix. So if you're going to shop at Publix anyway, you could go a few more miles down the road and get out of the car once, hit Publix and the liquor store. I think there's a nail place and a Japanese restaurant. So you can have dinner, get your nails done, pick up booze for the weekend, and have your groceries for next week all in one stop. And Paulding County's like, no, that's way too convenient because that's the devil's liquor.
Can't have that.
Oh, God, no. You can't have freedom. That'd be awful. This is interesting. So there's an ad, and I don't know that it was done by Trump's people. It was done by somebody. And it's using the Stanley Kubrick classic Full Metal Jacket. And it's R. Lee Ermey, who played the drill sergeant in that movie. And what he's trying to do is, what the ad is doing is highlighting the difference between what we perceived the military to be before, which would be the 60s and 70s, which is when Full Metal Jacket was placed. And R. Lee Ermey, the guy who played the drill sergeant, was a Marine drill instructor. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't an actor before this. He was brought in as a consultant, and he did so well that Kubrick was like, just use him. Why don't we just use him? So anyway, Kubrick's daughter says she's very confident that her father would have supported Trump and has no problem with the Trump ad using the scenes from Full Metal Jacket. Show me your war face and all that stuff. And then they show, the drag queens and all that stuff that the military's been putting out, which I'm aghast over. It's not that we always had gay members of the military. That doesn't bother me one way or the other. It's the fact that they're pushing that as the strength of our force. I'm like, no, the strength of our force is killing people and breaking things. So it's a decent ad. I mean, it's got some curse words. There's a reason that it's on X and not on NBC. There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And Trump even dropped a few explicitives during his talk at the Al Smith dinner, which I'm not sure at a church event was really appropriate. But anyway.
I mean, Donald Trump is going to do whatever the heck he wants.
Well, that, and I think the rougher language is becoming normalized now. Like, you can watch Fox News, particularly after 10, and you're not going to hear any F-bombs, but you certainly hear, other words that probably would not have been permitted on any network TV before that. Mm-hmm. But was it the Shield or the Badge? One of those shows was the first to actually drop the S-bomb on network TV. It was like, oh no, oh my Lord. And now if you watch, some of the shows on USA or TNT or some of their channels, I mean, you get F-bombs and stuff because they are technically cable and they're after 10 o'clock.
Yep. I remember Nip Tuck was one of the ones on the early days that was just like extremely graphic compared to everything else, and then normalized it. But
yes, they're competing with HBO. Mm-hmm. All right, so Cammie sat down with Bret Baier. I don't know if you saw this.
I saw parts of it. It was cringeworthy at best.
All right, so she shows up 17 minutes late. Give him 30 minutes, and I mean a hard 30. She sits down and then tries to filibuster for 30 minutes. Excuse me. I told you something's blooming out here. So she tries to filibuster. And then can I finish? Can I finish? Will you let me finish? No, he won't. You know why? Because you've been talking on this question for 5 minutes and haven't made sense yet.
Yeah, and we also know that is a tactic, because then her followers say, he never let her finish. But there was a headline from the New Republic that wrote, I love it. They're like, even Fox News' Bret Baier admits Harris outsmarted him in the interview. And they said that he was brutally roasted over his bonkers and aggressive interview with Kamala. What? What interview did you watch?
I watched the whole thing, and I'm not proud of that because it's 30 minutes I won't get back in my life. Mm. He was extremely professional, and he did the same thing he does with everybody. It doesn't matter if you're running for president or city council. He will press you on the issues. She's unaccustomed to follow-up questions. And one of the biggest follow-up questions is, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And she couldn't handle a follow-up question. And then she said something to the effect of, you know what I mean. And he's like, no, Madam Vice President, I don't think I do. Why don't you explain it? Because she throws out word salad.
I really loved when he was like, you've been there for, 3.5 years. Like, why haven't you done X, Y, and Z? And she's like, well, Donald Trump has been running for president.
Right. Right. When did you notice Joe Biden's cognitive decline? Look, woman, look, little witch. We all know that was the reason for the coup. We all know this. This is not secretive. It's she's trying to straddle this line of calling Donald Trump a serial abuser of women while not highlighting the fact that her husband's accused of slapping a girlfriend around and knocked up a nanny. That's, don't highlight that, but yeah, Emhoff is not running for office, which I guess is true. But I thought that Bear handled it very well. At the end of it, there are people behind the camera waving him off, saying, "This is time. This is it. This is time. That's it. We're done." And he's like, "Well, we have to wrap it up." And then she has the ovarian fortitude to act like he cut her off. Like it wasn't her people, because he'd have gone for an hour and they could have cut it down. But the fact that she showed up late and he's trying to get it on a show that when they got done recording, that show was being produced in real time to go a half hour later. And that's a quick turnaround. When you talk about multiple camera angles and all that stuff, that's a quick turnaround for that production crew, and good on them. I did hear that Cammie was kicking around the idea of going on Rogan.
Really?
That ain't gonna happen. There's just no way.
He would eviscerate her.
He would let her talk.
And then he would eviscerate her.
Oh, yeah. She can't do a 3-hour long format interview. There's just no way. She can't hold up for 30 minutes with Bret Baier. I mean, you think she can hold her own with Rogan? A guy that makes his living being funny? And honestly, the gold standard when it comes to podcasts. I mean, everybody that picks up a mic and pulls their computer up and says, "I want to be like Rogan." I mean, maybe not you. You probably don't want to hop in an octagon and get the hell beat out of you. But as far as popularity goes, actually, the octagon may be less painful than dealing with local government
at times. But Bret Baier said in some post interview analysis that he felt like Harris and her campaign wanted to come on for the controversial, or for the controversy, so that they could have some clips to go viral on social media and things like that. And he felt like if that's what she came for, that she probably got that. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the part about she wanted him to cut her off so she could say, so she could be the victim, because Republicans hate women and they don't want them to have a voice and blah blah blah. It speaks to the entire narrative that she constantly peddles.
And I don't think Bear's a Republican.
No.
I don't. He's very hard on Republican. He's hard on Trump.
For sure.
He's a journalist.
She definitely considered it enemy territory where he was, where she was responding. But,
yeah, but she wants to come off to the left as strong. Let me finish, and to the rest of to everybody else, she comes off as a B.
Yeah.
Like, let me finish. Instead of saying, excuse me, let me finish this one point, and we'll get to the next question. And that's the way a politician handles his. Let me finish this one point. We'll get to the next question.
But like the Daily Beast, their headline after all this was Fox News's Bret Baier whines about Harris after bad-tempered interview.
I don't think he wasn't. He was not poorly tempered at all. In fact, when they asked him, what was it like after the interview, he goes, very cordial. She came up, shook my hand, says, thanks for having me. And I said, Madam Vice President, thank you very much for coming in. And there's a cordial relationship between the press and politicians in that they know, just like anybody who's ever listened to this show, I mean, certainly 341 episodes worth, know that when we have people on the show, even if we don't agree with them, we had on the head of the Georgia NAACP, and he and I had a lot of things in common. And, some things I pushed back on, but it was never disrespectful. We don't run gotcha interviews because we'd never get another one. I mean, yeah, sure. It'd be fun to pull in a Democrat and just eviscerate them but as funny as that would be for 1 hour, it would not net any other interviews. So that's what these journalists have to do is they know if he is unfair, if he is heavy handed, he's not going to get another Democrat interview ever again. So I think that he keeps that in mind when he draws out the questions and all that stuff. But he's also has his journalistic ethics that you are not going to run roughshod over me and just say word salad and a bunch of nonsensical utterances and then me go, oh, that's very thoughtful, Madam Vice President. No. So you can hand count out this ruling. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Thomas A. Cox ruled new provisions illegal, unconstitutional, and void. An opinion released Wednesday evening, according to multiple outlets. We've covered this on the show a good bit. So what the Secretary of State's office wanted to do, before they could certify anything coming out of each office, each polling location, is they had to hand count the ballots, human hand count the ballots, not who voted for who, just the ballots, and reconcile it to the machines. If there's a discrepancy, stop everything and then go find the discrepancy. Hand counting, I have more of a problem with memory cards being lost. That they don't have a sign in, sign out. They don't have accountability when it comes to the memory cards that go in these machines. Mm-hmm. So if you're in
in 2020 when they were like, "Oh, we lost one."
Yeah. Think about how easy it is if you're in let's say a Paulding County, which is heavily Republican. It's becoming less so as demographics change, but we're still heavily Republican. And if you're a poll worker in Paulding County, if it's going to be 2 to 3 Trump, sticking a memory card in your pocket, if you stick one in your pocket, you start removing thousands of votes from Trump from Paulding County, and overall you remove thousands of votes from Trump for Georgia. Same thing goes if you're in DeKalb County, and if you were Republican, and you want to stick a couple memory cards in your pocket and pull them away from Harris. Mm-hmm. That sort of stuff has got to change. There needs to be accountability. It needs to be serializing of those memory cards. But to go through and hand count, look, God love our poll workers. They do a lot of training and a lot of work to come out once every 2 years and keep those polls moving, and they do a lot of great work. I'm just saying that giving a bunch of people big stacks of paper to count individual pieces of paper and expect 20 people in a precinct 9 o'clock at night after working all day to have a perfect count is insane.
Right.
Banks don't even do that. When you count the vault in a bank, you don't hand count every bill. You run it through bill counters, and then you verify the straps, then count the straps. Same thing can be done with. I don't think we have the machines do it now, but now Raffensperger has 2 years for the next election to come up with the machines to do that. One per precinct that you just feed them in and it shoots out a number. 10,000 ballots. Okay. And instead of asking 10 people to count 1,000 ballots each. But it is gone for this cycle.
Yeah, and I think that if it was really pressing, why did they rush it through at the end?
Right.
Like, why did they try to institute the new rule? What was it? At that 4 weeks maybe before?
CYA maybe? So Brad can stand up and go, I tried, but the court struck me down.
I guess. I mean, maybe, yeah, but I just...
Well, this is a good time to remind you these are our opinions, not those of anyone not on the show, any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over the GeorgiaVirtue.com. Jesse, I happen to know the owner of that particular website.
Lucky.
I am. So, Mule of the Week, Ken Pullen.
Poor Ken.
Poor Ken.
He's been going through it.
So, Kenny travels a good bit, and he travels more than I do, and we both travel a good bit. And these few weeks, he's in Singapore right now as we record. So these few weeks between me being in Arizona, him being in Napa, then him being in Singapore. So he came home from Napa Wednesday night, or Wednesday afternoon, whatever it was. So he and his wife had a nice romantic trip out for wine tasting and all that stuff. They get back, so early next morning, he's gonna hop on a 15-hour flight to Incheon to then connect on another flight to Singapore. So halfway through the flight, his wife texts him, and Shelby texts him like, you have something important with you. It's something like that. He's like, what? She goes, you have my bag. You grabbed the wrong bag this morning. So he's flying 23 hours, I think, total, between the changing planes and Incheon and all that stuff, with his wife's bag. And he's got to go clear customs with his wife's dirty undies.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine, though, the sinking feeling of being mid-flight and knowing that when you get off the plane you don't have anything you need?
Well, he did get a Delta One upgrade, so hopefully he kept the amenities kit, which includes a toothbrush and some basic stuff.
There you
go. I hope they check his bag at customs.
Yeah, good luck explaining that.
And I said, he was texting me from the air, and I said, well, just get it to overnight to you. It's probably cheaper to buy clothes once I get there. I said, good luck finding clothes in Singapore for a guy that's 6 feet tall.
I thought that Singapore was like a shopping mecca of sorts.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure he'll find stuff. It's more fun to torture him while he's in the air. Can't do anything about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I mean, is he gonna? He probably had to buy another suitcase to get all of his stuff home. And I love how she was like, "Don't leave my bag behind. There's important stuff in there."
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that one alone because I don't know what the important stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hopefully it's not like a bunch of edible marijuana that they were bringing back from California, and now he's trying to cross a border with it. I highly doubt that a school teacher and an incoming county commissioner were flying back with pot. But it's funnier to create the rumor that he was. No, yeah, I'd probably poo myself right there in the seat as soon as I saw that. Like, huh? Well, if I need a bra and panties, I guess I'm set. Oh, look, your heels are in there too. Wonderful. Not only do I not wear heels, they're the wrong size.
Mm-mm.
All right, Jesse. So let's get to the not so fun part of the show. We've got some stuff on. We got the East Point settlement.
Yes. So last week there was a super disturbing story that came out of the city of East Point, which I'm sure there was some talk about it before, but I'm not as in tune to Fulton County, Atlanta metro stuff as I used to um, be. But basically, this is a story that dates back to 2021, where a girl named Olivia Hanna was arrested by East Point police. And she was arrested for shoplifting. I am not sure if it was misdemeanor shoplifting or felony shoplifting, but my understanding is that was the only charge. And she was taken to the jail, and they were aware of the fact that she had consumed some sort of substance. They believed it was an illegal substance, and basically according to the filings of the lawsuit, she was put in solitary confinement, which is odd to me. But she was put in solitary. She was denied requests to shower, and she was denied menstrual hygiene products, which all of those things are actually extremely common in county jails. But what was particularly problematic is that she started to have withdrawal symptoms, and a nurse recommended she be transferred to another facility that would be like better equipped to hold her in custody, but also help with those withdrawal issues. And the jailers ignored her or the nurse's recommendations, and Olivia Hanna died, which is horrific. Like, I don't care. I mean, she was 23 years old. It doesn't matter how old somebody is, but she was 23. She had a lot of life left to live. And yes, she may have committed a crime. She did consume illegal drugs, but it's the same issue with the prisons that I have, which is that when you take someone into custody, your job is to keep them in custody and to keep them alive. Like, those are the only two things you have to do. And so when you fail to do that, you're on the hook. And they settled with her family for $2.1 million this past week. But more importantly, which I actually commend the lawyers for on this, is that they want to, of course they want the glory and probably their 30%, but they are trying to raise awareness about all the ways that the system failed and how this is probably not the only instance of something like this, maybe not to the extent of death, but in the East Point jail, which I didn't even know East Point had a jail, but that's neither here nor there.
The lack of access to feminine hygiene products is a violation of the Eighth Amendment. I mean, what is she supposed to do? I mean, is it an idea of humiliation? Is it budget? I mean, what's the? I don't understand what the purpose is here.
Well, and what's even more alarming is, this part they cannot prove. Like, I don't know if she took them before she came in. The press release, and I have no reason to believe they're lying, but they didn't provide me with proof, so that's the only reason I'm saying it like that. But they contend that she took or she swallowed drugs from in the jail, or that she had, I don't know if it was on her person or what, but she was inside the jail when she took these other drugs. She called her, and her goal in doing so was she was trying to get the jailers' attention because apparently they would not care for her. She eventually called her mother and told her what happened. Her mother called the jail, and supposedly the jailer spoke with Hannah and confirmed that she had swallowed these drugs, and it ended up being they contained some level of fentanyl, but they didn't administer Narcan. They didn't call an ambulance. They didn't call for medical care. And then apparently one of the reasons that they settled was because they falsified jail records about it all, and here we are today. But
what's both situations are bad, but I think it has to be worse looking on the jail if she got the lethal dose of fentanyl inside their walls.
Totally, but that happens all the time too. And
I understand it happens all the time, but you can't say, oh no, we did everything right. She must have gotten it inside. We did everything right. She couldn't have gotten it inside.
Yeah, but do you know that? And I've seen it happen in Bullitt County and other counties around here, so I'm sure it happens up north. But if you are searched by a deputy or by if you're in a female. A lot of times there's a female jailer at a jail to facilitate the search. But if you are searched before they put you in a cell and they don't find the drugs, they will charge you with crossing the guard lines.
Yeah.
Which is nuts to me because, yes, you did. But like you have a right not to incriminate yourself. So you don't have to tell them, like, is there anything else on you? You don't have to tell them that. But then they were supposed to do a thorough search to make sure that their facility stays secure and free from contraband. And you didn't find it, and you're going to charge them with a felony? Please.
Even if they find it during the search, they hit you with a felony. You still cross the guard line.
Well, they won't charge you with crossing the guard line, like, if they find... Because usually they search you on the roadside before they put you in a car. But if it's a woman, obviously... A lot of times they'll wait till you get to jail.
Even males with a prison pocket. You know, if they say I wanted to get to smuggle in some pills, and put a condom full of pills in the old prison pocket, then they'll go commit a DUI on purpose, get arrested, so that I know I'm only going to be there for 12 hours, and then get paid for delivering the butt pills. That's still crossing the guard line, and we see the crossing the guard line a lot with visitors and people like that who are trying to and guards who bring drugs in will get charged with it for crossing the guard line with it.
Well, and I agree with all that, but I think it's a totally different circumstance when they charge or they search you and they don't find it, and then they want to charge you with something that they didn't find before they were supposed to. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Why aren't they using body scanners? Why are they still having you to squat over a light?
I'm not sure.
I mean, going to the airport, they can see if I have an implant in any of my bones. That pops up. Why are we not using that technology, especially in big places like East Point Jail is not small. Fulton County Jail is not small. It's, I understand in Bullock they may not have the funds for it, but why aren't we using that technology, especially when you're letting trustees out to go work along the side of the road and bringing them back, then having to search, do body cavity searches, instead of just having them pass through a machine that says, whoa, that's not supposed to be in somebody's colon. So we had Department of Justice report on the state of Georgia prisons.
Yes. So this one,
it's both the state of Georgia prisons, I should say.
Right. This one is super alarming, and I waited with bated breath for this report because we were told that the U.S. Department of Justice was investigating our prisons, and then the state of Georgia tried to prevent them from doing so. And then my favorite, the state of Georgia tried to get the federal government to sign an NDA about the findings of their investigation, which...
Yeah, good effing luck.
I mean, that violates the Georgia Open Records Act and FOIA. So, but the fact that our Attorney General, Chris Carr, and the goons at the Georgia Department of Corrections felt like that was something that they needed to do is just entertaining to me. But I say all that to say, this report came out and it's freaking damning and probably one of the most graphic and gruesome things that I've read. I guess I was really surprised by the how in depth the report was, but it's 94 pages, and basically the press release was like, well, and what was also telling about it is that all three districts within the federal courts, like the Southern District of Georgia, Middle District, and Northern District, all the U.S. attorneys' offices were behind it and participated in it. So, like, it was a statewide analysis, basically, and they came up with this report and said, you know, you have the fourth highest prison population in the country, you supervise 50,000 people, and our three conclusions are that the state of Georgia engages in a pattern of violating incarcerated persons' constitutional rights by failing to protect them in the medium and close security facilities, which are the medium and basically supermax. And they talked about how there's widespread physical violence, unreasonable risk of harm from sexual abuse, and that they don't protect incarcerated persons, whether it's because of their sexual preference or their religion or anything else. That was just the first thing. The second thing was that, which everybody knows, but there's critical understaffing and the deficiencies. They have a lack of contraband control, and they don't report incidents, and their investigations all contribute to the widespread violence. And then the third, which is completely connected to the story that I've been covering in Tattnall County with Smith State Prison and the death of Bobby Kicklighter, that Georgia gangs exert improper influence on prison life, including controlling entire housing units and operating unlawful and dangerous schemes in the prisons. And they were certain to say both incarcerated people and the public are affected. And that was just the press release. They went on to list 11 deficient conditions as like the outline for and table of contents for the report. And then just these gruesome stories. I mean, I've posted some of them that are.
Well, let me give the details as I recall from one of your stories, because I know you're too ladylike to get into it. So a prisoner ticked off the wrong people, and their punishment to him was to cram bars of soap into his rectum. Mm-hmm. And when I say bars of soap, I'm not talking about one. And that'd be awful enough. That's a sexual violation anyway. Absolutely. You go, whether it's a female prison, male prison, anything else. And I love when they say that undue risk of sexual violence. I'm like, what's the appropriate amount of risk for sexual violence in any? So the guy's taken to the hospital. Was he life flighted?
No, because they took him it was at Smith State Prison, and they took him to Tattnall, which was just, it's not far. It's not. So he's got an entire sleeve of soap in his butt, and as they're trying to get him out, these poo and blood covered bars of soap are slipping out of him. Mm-hmm. He's beaten nearly to death, raped almost to death, and been violated with foreign objects almost to death. Not to mention the soap is meant to be taken externally, not internally, so nothing good comes from that. So he goes to the hospital, recovers to a sufficient point for the Georgia Department of Corrections, and sent back to Smith State. Mm-hmm. Not in protective custody. Did you say that his upper teeth had all been pretty much broken? Did you say that?
No, I didn't say that. I forgot the part about them busting all his teeth out.
Yes, and they suctioned 150 milliliters of blood from his airway at the hospital. Now, 150 milliliters. 2 milliliters is what you give to a baby in a syringe when you give them Tylenol or Motrin, like the full little syringe. That's 2 milliliters. So you're talking about 75 of those.
Enough to drown somebody.
In his lungs. And this is just one instance. And of course, of course they put this in here because it is so gruesome. And I remember when I was doing research at the Tattnall County Courthouse, and I had the list of prison cases, and I was going through, and I read this one, and I was like, oh my God, like, it was just horrific and appalling, and I kind of just turned away from it because I was like, I don't know how to explain to people that this kind of stuff is happening. But they put it in there because they wanted to show that this is what happened. But this is, first of all, this is one of the instances that we know of. This is one of the ones where the person was able to get medical care, because a lot of times they don't, or they treat them on site so that they don't have an ambulance leaving or whatever else. I mean, these types of things are happening all the time. And this guy was in there initially for forgery and something else. I want to say it was a minor drug offense. I'm not sure, but he was not a murderer. He was not a rapist. He should have never been at Smith State Prison, but we have this ridiculous policy where we mix all different kinds of offenders in different facilities, but he never should have been there. So he fought for his life. Then he got other charges because of he was fighting, but I mean, if this is the life you're living, like, of course you're going to fight. But it just
that's a game. I was talking to a PA at that works at Fulton County Jail. Mm-hmm. It said that's a game for people who are short timers. Is they try to draw them in to get additional charges because they know they're lifers, that they know they're going to go to trial and they're never getting out. So it's amusing to them to draw these people that are going to be there for a week, whatever, and draw them into something else that they get them additional charges, and that's amusing to them.
Yeah.
So when you mix people who are going to be in for 5 years, and you put them in with a bunch of people who will never see unstriped sunlight again, what the hell do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's horrific. And I don't care if they were in there for murder or rape, unless they are sentenced to the death penalty. The state has absolutely no. I mean, again, they're supposed to keep them behind bars and away from the public, and they're supposed to keep them alive. Those are their responsibilities at the very minimum. And they can't do that. The Department of Corrections cannot do that. And these stories are not uncommon. They're very common. They're very gruesome. And what infuriates me is that this happened in May of 2020. They know it happened. Some of it is on camera. They know who the perpetrator was. They indicted the perpetrator in 18 months after, I think, which I'll give them a little bit of leeway. We had our judicial emergency because of COVID. But so 18 months after, and we are now 3 years from that indictment, and the offender has not been, like, his case has not been adjudicated. So they know who it is. They've charged him for it. They have the guy at the same prison. The offender is at another prison, which I can appreciate, but like, I feel like they should have moved both of them. And you send the message that you don't give two flips about the fact that the case hasn't moved because, it just happened between inmates. It's no big deal. It's a really big deal.
Yes, if you deprive someone of freedom, you accept the responsibility for their safety. And look, we can all say it's common, especially when you talk about child molesters and rapists, things like that. I hope they find Bubba in prison. Mm-hmm. That's all well and fine, because it's a guttural response that we all have to horrible crimes. This guy not only did first of all, I hate forgers. I hate thieves, and forgers are thieves by nature. I despise them. Mm-hmm. Not 7 bars of soap in the butt despise them, but I despise them.
Yeah,
and this is a clear violation of the prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment, because this is not an offhand occurrence. If this was once, it'd be horrific. But the fact that this is a pattern lets us know that Georgia knows what's going on, and Georgia does not care.
Correct.
And as hard of a right-winger as I am, I also know that as a Republican, if you come out saying we need prison reform, everybody's like, "Oh, you're weak on crime." It's the first thing they'll hang you with when you go to a primary is soft on crime, soft on criminals.
Well, it just infuriates me with, Brian Kemp's position on it, because he loves to claim tough on crime and you can't do those, you can't play these games in Georgia and yada, yada, yada. But the reality is that most of the people who are in prison are going to get out of prison one day. And they, one, have a right to be protected from unreasonable and unnecessary harm. We're not talking about a fight over some ramen noodles or, a space heater or something. We're talking about brutal assaults and murders inside the prison. And two, tough on crime means that you punish people for their crime, you have them serve their time, and then when they get out, you're not contributing to them being a worse person than they were when they went in there. And the fact that Brian Kemp has turned a blind eye to all of this, and, Timothy Ward was forced out, and we have Tyrone Oliver, but I'm not impressed. I'm
a problem solver. I don't think I have the tools in my toolbox to fix. If you put me in charge of Department of Corrections right now, outside of systematically firing everybody, I don't. Then what do you do with the inmates in the interim?
What you have to do is bring in the National Guard. You have to have a baseline of force and ugliness and a way of prison that we don't all necessarily agree with, but you have to temporarily institute that and reestablish control over these facilities. And then you have to fire people and you have to clear out everything, and you need to reevaluate everyone who is employed there. And then when you've cleared it all out, you need to raise the pay so that you no longer attract people who are in gangs, and you need to have a strict hiring process and know that yes, every now and then there's going to be someone that's people are infallible. But the fact that people in gangs go and apply for GDC and it's guaranteed that, that there's no, it's odd that it's unusual that they are recruited. They're usually get hired already connected to these people.
Well, I hate the National Guard thing because, one, they're not post-qualified, the majority. And if they are, you're taking an officer off the road. So these National Guardsmen have civilian jobs. And not all of them are working at a bank. A lot of them, when you talk about MPs, the majority of MPs work in law enforcement. So it's quite possible when you talk about jailers, you're going to take jailers out of jails, put them in a different uniform, and put them back into jails.
Yeah, but we don't have our county jails, other than maybe Richmond County in East Georgia. Our county jails do not have the contraband and gang problem that our Georgia prisons do.
Fulton County.
And I don't care if it takes resources from the locals. This is a crisis that is affecting the state. It's affecting the public. It's affecting people who work there who aren't involved. And it's affecting people who, yes, are guilty of a crime, but are not deserving of this kind of treatment.
I'm not saying they are deserving. I'm also saying that these National Guardsmen, to put them on an indefinite activation, because what you're talking about is going to take months, if not years.
Florida did it.
Well,
and you know what they did? They consolidated prisons and they consolidated inmates in prisons and put them at max capacity, which is not ideal. But when they instituted the National Guard, they were able to lower the number of facilities that they had in operation and move the staff to fully staff the prisons so that they could get them under control. I mean,
and it's quite possible the prisoners did not mess with the National Guard either.
Sure.
And we found that in Katrina. Is we heard all this about rioting and looting and all that stuff during Katrina. When we showed up with automatic weapons, the limited calls I got home is Connie was at home watching Shepard Smith, and she hates Shepard Smith to this day. Talk about the burning and looting and all this stuff, and then she'd ask me, I'm like, no, we're fine. I'm having a cocktail sitting on a levee.
Yeah,
I was off at the time.
Of course, but it's going to take something extreme, and until they do, it's just going to keep going.
How about prison farms? is, the Joseph Arpaio view of it is have prison farms and have direct control over them, and don't let their hands be idle.
I agree with that. I think idle hands is the worst thing. I mean, that's why we had so many riots in our prisons during COVID, because they weren't doing anything. They had no visitation. They were just sitting there stewing and being angry.
And how about the technology that Micah Gravely is involved with that can monitor the intoxication? Is they can monitor if somebody's using drugs within the facility. And they can monitor somebody that's in crisis within the facility, and it'll set an alarm off with their heart rate it goes above a certain rate, and then they can respond to it. I mean, there's so many things that we've done. One is blocking out cell phones. You can turn a prison into a Faraday cage, and cell phones just won't work. Radios will work within the cage, but cell phones won't.
Yeah, but Brian Kemp's argument is we can't do it because of the FCC, and Chris Carr says we can't do it because of the FCC. Please tell me which Georgians would be angry that we, quote, were assessed fines and fees by the FCC so that we could secure our prisons. Please tell me.
I think the life flight expense by itself would pay for it.
Yes.
All right, Jesse, as we're about 15 minutes long, what do you get closing thoughts? Oh, no. I enjoyed the whole damn thing. As we were writing the outline, like, do we have enough content?
Yeah, well, I really get to ranting about the prisons, but my closing thought is more like a point of information. Did you know that David Duke, the former KKK guy, endorsed Jill Stein?
I'm not shocked.
Well, the conversation is that he chose Jill over Trump, but I just thought it was interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I expected. I just thought it was odd, but interesting.
I hadn't heard the name David Duke in years.
Yeah. Maybe he's just trying to be relevant still, or relevant in his own mind.
In his own mind, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's got a book coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have much besides, Jesse, thank you very much for filling in. I certainly miss the 2 hours we spend every week with an hour on the air of you telling me how stupid I am. That hour goes with the other hours that my wife tells me how stupid I am. So everybody's to make sure I don't get a big head. Big thanks to Eric Cumby, who last week really saved us, because Matt and I recorded like at 8:00 at night on Sunday, and Eric turned it around. But yeah, he does a great job for us. If you like what you heard, please like and share us on the socials. If you don't like what you heard, please like and share us on the socials. So with that, we will talk to you next week.
Catch me howling at the moon.